Hi, I'm Itu and this is a devlog for Horizons, a rhythm game that will release in September and that you can now wishlist on Steam. This month I continued working on the menus. Hold on, something wrong here. Here. There, much better. Last time I also mentioned results from playtests. I didn't get a lot of feedbacks, but there were some nonetheless and they ended up really useful. Let's look at what they said. First, the good news is that the game is unanimously really intuitive. All the players immediately understood the rules and quickly got the controls. It allowed them to easily get in the game, and some of them even got kinda hooked. However, the tension point was the difficulty. If you remember, one Call of Duty main issue was that it was too hard. And well, Horizons is still too hard. Despite all the balancing on difficulty, most players barely achieved to pass the tutorial. Yeah. Even though I took care to make it pretty soft, there's like a wall that almost nobody can pass. But wait, there's another surprising part. For all the other players, the game is too easy. Those who are familiar with rhythm game or music making didn't face any challenge at all. There's no in-between, either players struggle, either they go straight to the end. With one nuance though, the final layer. The few players who succeeded to reach it really had troubles to beat it. Slightly more than I would have wished. They got stuck quite a long time, and it was mostly frustrating. So, we have now a game that is both too hard and too easy. That's a conundrum. Let's try to understand what's causing this issue, and I'll show you the solutions I implemented to fix it. Before we tackle the main pain point, there are already some quick wins we can use to make the game more accessible. Decreasing the amount of progress bar lost so that the game is less punitive, and increasing block width to make them more readable. It's easy little adjustments that slightly help players discover the game. But the real problem was on a precise point, the beginning of the second layer. Everybody managed to complete the first layer with more or less struggle. It's the tutorial. But as soon as they reached the second layer, they just couldn't land any single note. They were completely overwhelmed by the phrases, which were pretty easy though. The goal of layer 2 is to introduce 8th note, slowly, one at a time. Except that there was a second difficulty that I didn't notice, phrases overlapping with players' input. Even though the phrases are not long, it was just enough to create a new source of difficulty. They even introduced a never-seen-before pattern, 8th note following half note. Again, it's not really hard, but it's new for the player. Having several new difficulties introduced all at once, that was breaking the tutorial. Player couldn't focus on a single one, so they panicked and were unable to progress. So I split again the difficulty incrementing so that it's more progressive and introduce each new challenge one by one, especially the one that I didn't think could be actually difficult. It slows down the beginning, but helps players familiarizing themselves with the rhythm. I also made another change in the difficulty progression. My initial idea was that each layer would introduce a new concept, 8 notes, then long phrases, offbeats, but I realized that if this new challenge is introduced at the start of the layer, it's likely that players will fail on the first time, and so they will go back to the previous layer, which is really punitive. So I softened it by making sure that the first quarter of each layer has the same difficulty than the previous layer. This way players are faced with something they know, they can grind and feel the bar enough so that they can take a little damage later and stay in the layer to train on the new challenge. Next comes the final layer, which was difficult for everyone. And actually, it's for the same reason. The final layer introduces 3 new difficulties in one go. Phrases rhythm is slower, the music doesn't have drums anymore, and a single error makes you lose the layer. These are difficulties that I meant to add, because I found them interesting and they are fitting for the end of the level. But once again, even for an expert player, having to manage all of them at the same time takes them by surprise. It would be too much work to redesign the whole ending, so I had to find solutions to attenuate these difficulties and help players handle them. First, I edited the block size for this section so that players won't be betrayed by their visual reflex and will better see the timing. Then, I let the shield activated during the final to allow players to make 2 mistakes. It's still a challenge with high stakes, but they can now train a little bit longer before losing. And finally, for the drum, I let them absent from the background music, but instead I changed the first phrases so that they give the beat. It makes the melody less interesting, but now the final should be more approachable. With all these changes, the game should now be more accessible. And to offset that, I need more playtests. Once again, I'm asking you for feedbacks. If you're interested in playing the game, let me know in the comments. However, I made adjustments to make the game easier for the majority of players, but there are still some that already find it too trivial. This issue still has to be solved. What challenge could we offer to them? That's what I'm working on currently, and next time I'll show you what I cooked. But before I leave, I have just a little thing to show you. Wait, it's here. It's pretty neat, no? Anyway, thanks for watching, see you next time.